It wasn't until the 7th year with Rebecca that I learned she had a long-time, unrequited love or white moonlight. On the very day I was diagnosed with stomach cancer, her white moonlight returned from abroad. When I went alone to the hospital for chemotherapy, I saw her coming out of the obstetrics department with that man. I finally made up my mind to divorce her and set her free, but her eyes reddened as she said she'd abort the child and return to our family. But I'm tired and I find it filthy. This morning while cleaning the house, a sharp pain shot through my stomach. I doubled over in agony, drenched in cold sweat. I wanted to ask my wife Rebecca for help, but she just poured me a glass of warm water, placed it before me, and told me she was going out shopping with her girlfriends. The pain left me too weak to speak. I watched as she left her makeup bright and beautiful, wearing a tight bodycon dress, her eyes brimming with allure. She seemed unusually happy today, with a sparkle in her eyes I'd never seen before. I couldn't bear to interrupt her, and she didn't notice my grave condition. The door clicked shut as I collapsed onto the floor, clutching the table for support. My stomach suddenly heaved, and a metallic taste flooded my throat. The pale gray tiles were soon splattered with glaring crimson. I pulled out my phone and dialed 120, the only self-rescue I could manage. At the hospital, the doctors conducted a thorough examination of my body and finally gave me a diagnosis. I had late-stage stomach cancer. The doctor said I needed to start treatment as soon as possible to possibly extend my life, otherwise I might only have a few months left. I sat in the hospital corridor, holding the diagnosis report, feeling a wave of sorrow in my heart. I wanted to call Rebecca, desperately longing to hear her voice. But the line was busy, met only with the relentless sound of the engaged tone. Scrolling through my phone, I messaged her on WeChat asking what she was doing, but there was no response. I stood like a man abandoned by the whole world, leaning alone against the cold hospital wall. The notification tone from my phone sounded, and I opened it with hopeful anticipation, only to see a message from a colleague. The hope in my eyes shattered once again as I discovered it was a video. The video showed a man and a woman embracing tightly at the airport in the eastern suburbs. A banner on the side revealed the man's identity, Nathan, an outstanding pianist who had returned from abroad, and the woman was none other than my wife, Rebecca. I stared at the man's face and fell into memories. While tidying up the room this morning, I had found a man's photo tucked inside a book in the study. The man in the photo was unmistakably Nathan, with a line of delicate handwriting on the back that read my eternal white moonlight. That Rebecca's handwriting, I couldn't possibly mistake it. But before I could confront her misfortune, found me first. A colleague sent a voice message sounding concerned. "Boss, is that your wife? Don't get angry, yet go home and talk it out with her. If there's some misunderstanding, I feel terrible for being the one to tell you. I'm your good brother, and I feel guilty if I kept this from you." I thanked him and said I'd handle it properly, so he didn't need to worry. Though I said the words, my heart felt heavy and miserable. Rebecca's call finally came through. She sounded like she was having a great time. "Honey, is something wrong? I was watching a movie earlier and didn't see your message." The faint sound of a melodious piano piece came through the phone. I desperately wanted to know if that person was Nathan. "Nothing serious. I just wanted to ask who you went out with today. I happen to have a day off and thought I'd spend it with you." Rebecca hesitated for a moment, her words evasive. "Who else could it be? But Lena, it's not convenient for you to come over with both of us sisters here. Let us make it another day." I responded with a faint and hung up the phone. I didn't want to harbor suspicions about my partner, but that video and that photo made it impossible to suppress the turmoil in my heart. I found Lena's name in my WeChat contacts, tapped on her profile picture, and sent her message. "In a few days, it will be Chishi Festival. I want to buy Rebecca a gift. Could you help recommend something? Why don't you just ask Rebecca directly, or I can teach you how to subtly find out what she wants. Rebecca is sleeping now. She hasn't been feeling well lately, and I don't want to disturb her." After sending this message, my hands grew increasingly restless, fingers intertwining nervously. I was hoping to hear her say she was out shopping with Lena, but things didn't go as I wished. "I really envy Rebecca. I've been busy with a business trip these past 2 days, and won't be back for over a month. I'll visit her when I return." I didn't know how to respond to her. My mind was in complete turmoil. In the end, she chose to answer me with a lie. Yet a sliver of hope still lingered in my heart, wishing she would explain. What if I truly misunderstood her? I first met Rebecca 7 years ago in the height of summer. Just as my career was beginning to show promise, I received news of my mother's passing. My parents divorced early, and my mother raised me through hardship. Those days were undoubtedly the darkest period of my life. Sitting on a park bench with a cup of coffee, surrounded by the clamor of the crowd, I felt nothing but profound loneliness. Rebecca was handing out flyers under the scorching sun when she noticed my gloomy mood and took the initiative to strike up a conversation with me. Like a cheerful little sprite, she kept trying to cheer me up. She told me she was also an orphan who had never known the love of parents. She once had an older brother she relied on, but he had abandoned her to go abroad. Two lonely souls leaned on each other, and my heart felt full again. Later, I often came to take care of her, and over time I realized I had fallen in love with her. confession, proposal, marriage registration. She agreed. Quickly, everything went so smoothly, I thought I had met the love of my life. Now it suddenly dawns on me that perhaps Nathan was the brother she had mentioned. But was he the brother I understood him to be? It was her obsession, her white moonlight, the one she truly wanted to spend her life with. A sour ache filled my heart, and waves of burning pain rose in my stomach. I rushed to the bathroom and retched violently. Blood mixed with water as it splashed into the white sink, staring at my wretched reflection in the mirror. A sense of despair washed over me. In the end, I was still alone. 3 after picking up the medicine from the pharmacy, I returned home and continued cleaning up the mess scattered across the floor. It was already 8 p.m., and Rebecca still hadn't come back. Worried, I dialed her number to ask where exactly she was. Victor, Lena S. heartbroken and not doing well. I need to stay with her for a few days. Take good care of yourself at home. Her voice was mixed with panting when I asked why. She said she had just been doing fat-burning exercises with Lena. How ridiculous. Lena was on a business trip in another city. What she was really doing, I dared not imagine. Besides, this time, she called me by my name. Ever since we got married, as if to give me a sense of security, she had called me hubby every day, never once using my name. Was she hiding something today? I thought Lena was still away on her business trip these past couple days. The breakup happened during her trip. She just got home. All right, you should take good care of yourself too. Pain spread through my entire heart, accompanied by bitterness. My stomach began to cramp again. I swallowed a handful of pills haphazardly and curled up on the bed, trying to ease my suffering. Yet boundless darkness and loneliness enveloped me. Veins bulged across my body. In the end, I was still alone. I didn't sleep all night, and I thought about many things. Quit my job, then undergo treatment, and ask Rebecca for the truth. At least I shouldn't let myself wallow in wild guesses alone here. At the company, colleagues were discussing the pianist who had just returned from abroad and would hold a concert at the end of the month. Nathan S. name suddenly reached my ears. So he was this famous. Victor, are you taking your wife to see it? I remember she really enjoys piano concertos. My breath hitched, and I couldn't stop my mind from wandering. I'll check into it later, but I'll need to ask her first. A young girl couldn't help but sigh in admiration there. Victor and his sister-in-law seem so close. I heard this Nathan fellow is the same after studying abroad for 7 years. He has finally returned home to bravely pursue love. They say on the day he returned to the country, someone even saw him passionately embracing his lover. How enviable. When will I ever have a boyfriend like that? Someone like Victor would be fine too. That day, my colleague Matthew, who had sent me the video, seemed to sense something and suddenly looked up at me. Noticing my odd expression, he quickly arranged work for that girl and cheerfully changed the subject. Boss, there's no way sister-in-law would betray you. You've got to pull yourself together. We still need you to lead us. He whispered in my ear, trying to comfort me. I might need to take some time off from now on. You'll have to lead the team. Matthew laughed heartily and gave me a pat on the shoulder, his carefree demeanor making him the one I trusted most. Boss, the way you said that made it sound like you weren't coming back. I know you need to handle things at home properly. We'll all be waiting for you to return. I hesitated to speak, but in the end, I only nodded silently. I asked my superiors to keep my resignation a secret, or at least wait until after I died to tell them. A man checked into the hospital, and the doctor seemed quite surprised to see me alone. Young man, R&T, you married, you can't come alone like this. You need someone to take care of you. It's fine, I'll just hire a nurse later. For on the first day of hospitalization, I contacted Rebecca and told her I was sick with cancer. She smiled and said I was joking with her. Rebecca, you've been gone for a week now. When are you coming home? Can't you, a grown man, stop obsessing over love all the time? I want to have my own life too. But I really don't have much time left. I have cancer. Can you stop threatening me with that excuse? Who would believe it anyway? The call ended abruptly. She still seemed angry. The pain from chemotherapy was truly unbearable. My hair started falling out in clumps, and I couldn't help vomiting blood from time to time. Living each day by hanging various 4 drips, I simply couldn't keep any food down. For a whole week, Rebecca didn't call me. Wasted away by cancer, until barely human, I no longer had the energy to pay attention to such things. Bored, I flipped through the calendar and suddenly realized today was actually Chishi Festival. Actually, there was no need for Lena's help. I had already prepared the gift early on, placing it on the nightstand in the room. But unfortunately, she never noticed it. I couldn't resist calling her, longing a little to hear her voice. Rebecca, it's Chishi Festival today. I've already taken the day off. Are you still at Lena's place? I'll come find you. Rebecca's voice carried a sense of urgency and impatience. The phone line was filled with chaotic noises. They must have been at some amusement park. Victor, Lena's in a bad mood. Us flaunting our love in front of her would just be twisting the knife, wouldn't it? It's not like we're missing out on just one Chishi Festival. We can celebrate it next year, just the same. She hurriedly hung up the phone, leaving behind a series of beeping tones. How could it be the same? I might not live to see next year. Since starting treatment, my daily routine has changed. Because I never know when an attack might come. The pain keeps me awake night after night. If I hadn't suddenly thought to check my phone, I wouldn't have known what day it was anymore. It's already the end of the month. I remember that young girl mentioning that Nathan would hold a concert at month's end. I took out my phone and browsed entertainment news online for the first time in ages. By 3 in the afternoon, just after finishing chemotherapy, a trending topic suddenly surged to the top of Weibo's hot search list. Nathan wins the beauty topped the trending list in blazing red. Clicking in revealed media captured videos and related reports. The footage showed Nathan on one knee presenting Rebecca with a bouquet of pristine white roses. Overwhelmed with joy, Rebecca burst into tears and threw herself into Nathan's arms. The star-crossed lovers were finally united. Who could have imagined that the leading lady in the video was a married woman and her husband was currently battling a serious illness? Rebecca took the initiative to call, attempting to explain things to me. Ching and he's just the older brother. I told you about all those online reports are just media nonsense. They got it all wrong. I no longer had the energy to think about it. After all, I was going to die soon anyway. All right, Rebecca, I believe you. So when are you coming home? For a moment, neither of us spoke. Perhaps my voice was too weak, letting Rebecca sense something amiss. Or perhaps she was wondering why I trusted her so completely. Finally, someone I don't know who brushed against the screen and ended the silent call. At that moment, I thought there was nothing I couldn't accept. But fate always loves to play tricks on me. It made me run into Rebecca at the hospital. The height of summer had already passed. They say September is golden autumn, but I'd been cooped up in the hospital room for too long. So I asked the nurse to accompany me outside for some fresh air. The greenery near the hospital is quite nice, with a few white pigeons flying over the square. Feeling a bit chilly, I decided to return to the hospital room. A few whispered words, carried by the wind, reached my ears, freezing me in place. Did you hear about Nathan, the one who went viral recently? His girlfriend is pregnant. Someone just saw them entering the obstetrics department. I was a bit unsteady on my feet, and the caregiver beside me heard it too, unable to resist teasing. That guy works fast. It's only been half a month since the end of August, and his wife is already pregnant. Clearly they hooked up as soon as he returned to the country. They just had to put on this act in front of everyone. So hypocritical. Whether it was anger or something else, I suddenly felt nauseous. So what's wrong with you? Please help me to the obstetrics department. I want to take a look. I never expected you to be such a gossip, sir. I didn't speak to him again after that. We walked the rest of the way in silence. From afar, I spotted a familiar figure, my wife's silhouette, one I could never possibly mistake. At that moment, Nathan was crouched beside Rebecca, pressing his head against her belly. The two exchanged a smile, saturating the air with the cloying stench of romance. That stench truly turned my stomach. From the day Rebecca and I got married, she had always been somewhat resistant to intimate activities between us, even going so far as to propose that we remain child-free. I thought she was afraid of the pain, and I was willing to respect her wishes. Turns out she just didn't want to be with me. She just didn't want to have child with me. A wave of sharp pain surged in my stomach, and I bent over, gasping for breath. So what's wrong with you, sir? The caregiver's voice was a bit loud, drawing the attention of everyone around, including Rebecca. Her expression was somewhat startled, as if she didn't understand why I was here. The caregiver helped me to the nearest chair, and I asked him to go invite Rebecca over. I want to go over to her, but that was a place welcoming new life. They're the future of this world. They shouldn't see someone as useless as me, nor hear such filthy things. Leaning against the cold wall, I watched Rebecca gently caressing her belly as she slowly walked toward me. Victor, what are you doing here? You mean the Mr. He-S in the late stages of stomach cancer? The caregiver was a young kid who always spoke bluntly. Besides, he thought Rebecca was Nathan's girlfriend and didn't see how they could have anything to do with me. Ching-in, what's going on? Rebecca's voice was slightly hoarse, tinged with a hint of tears. What exactly happened? I'm not quite sure myself. After we got married, Rebecca stopped handing out flyers at the park intersection, saying she wanted to be a full-time housewife. Even so, I never let her lift a finger with household chores, pampering her into a girl who wouldn't no hardship if it bit her. I wanted to give her a good life, so I worked myself to the bone with endless drinking and social engagements. She loved luxury goods and never batted an eye when making extravagant purchases. I climbed step by step from an ordinary employee to my current position as vice president while my health gradually deteriorated. But I knew this wasn't her fault. Even without her, I would have strived just as hard. I just feel somewhat sad, somewhat unworthy. If she didn't like me, why did she agree to my proposal in the first place? Since she agreed, why couldn't she remain loyal to the marriage? Why choose to cheat? I told you before, stomach cancer, I'll be dead soon. 6. The doctor's instructions were for me to stay calm and avoid extreme emotional fluctuations. Perhaps truly provoked the pain in my stomach, twisted with renewed intensity, my teeth having already bitten through my lips. Finally, amidst Rebecca Rebecca's repeated calls, I lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in my hospital room. Instinctively wanting to ask the nurse for water, I instead found Rebecca sitting beside me. It had been over a month since we last saw each other, and this reunion felt like a lifetime had passed. She handed me a glass of water, but I couldn't sit up to drink. The caregiver had to rush over and put in a straw. Rebecca looked somewhat embarrassed, an expected reaction, as she had never taken care of anyone before. Honey, I'm sorry. It was all my negligence. I shook my head, not understanding why she had reverted to this form of address, but I didn't want to hear it anymore. Rebecca, let us get a divorce from now on. Just call me by my name. Tears welled up in Rebecca's eyes as she sobbed, quietly shaking her head repeatedly. No divorce. Please let us not get divorced. I don't understand what she asked, clinging to her beloved white moonlight already returned to the country. Why won't she let me go? Rebecca, you're pregnant, aren't you? Whose child is it? My gaze was sharp as I stared intently at Rebecca's face, her eyes darting nervously. It's Nathan's isn't. Lena's been on a business trip this whole month. What kind of heartbreak were you comforting her about? My emotions flared as I roared, venting the grievances and resentment in my heart. Rebecca, I saw that photo in the study. He's your first love, the one you've been waiting for all this time. I want to hold your deception against you now that he's back and you're carrying a child. How dare you still not let me go? My heart was pounding wildly, tugging at my stomach and sending waves of nausea through me. Rebecca covered her face with both hands, fat teardrops slipping through her fingers. Yet my sharp eyes caught the blisters on her hands, marks from cooking oil splatters. My heart grew colder. Still, I couldn't bear to let her enter the kitchen. In 7 years together, she'd never once cooked a meal for me. The girl I doted on with all my heart turned around to cook for someone else. In the end, I guess I wasn't worth it. Husband, I truly never thought about divorcing you. Rebecca kept repeating these words, but to my ears, they sounded particularly grating. I couldn't help but roar like a madman, my hands pounding the bed frame relentlessly. If she doesn't want a divorce, then what does she want? To have her cake and eat it too, a devoted husband to care for her every need while keeping her childhood sweetheart around for fun. Just how shameless does one have to be to say such things out loud? At that moment, Nathan burst and he picked up Rebecca, who was sobbing bitterly, and glared at me with hostility in his eyes. Victor, right? Do you even know Rebecca is pregnant? She shouldn't be emotionally distressed. Are you deliberately trying to make her suffer? I couldn't understand how Nathan could say these words with such righteous indignation. Rebecca is my wife, and she's carrying her child now that I'm dying. Who is going to ask how I'm doing? Nathan, as long as I'm alive, you'll always be the other man. Though I remained resolute about the divorce in my heart, venting my anger, and watching his expression grow increasingly unpleasant still gave me some satisfaction. Rebecca leaned into Nathan's embrace, burying her head in the crook of his arm. What a perfect match they made. Rebecca will divorce you soon enough. Nathan left those words angrily, and I actually wish she would divorce me right away. It's just a pity. I have a feeling that with someone like her, I probably won't be able to free myself until death. As soon as the two left, the house fell silent. The caregiver looked at me, seeming rather incredulous. Sir, who would thought he looks human but acts like an animal. That pair is nothing but shameless adulterers. He was standing up for me, which warmed my heart a little. At least someone was still on my side. Then something completely unexpected happened. The incident at the hospital that day had been secretly recorded by someone and posted online. Instantly, it sparked heated discussions among countless people. Nathan was labeled as the other man, and his relationship with Rebecca was dragged through the mud. The comment section was flooded with uniform insults, scumbag, and slut, as people hurled the most vicious curses at them. Colleagues at the company also saw the footage, and word quickly spread about my late-stage stomach cancer diagnosis. They rallied in my defense, each using their own social media accounts to speak out against the injustice. I'm Victor's subordinate. Our boss works himself to death every day, drinking and socializing until he develops stomach cancer, all to earn money to support Rebecca. Her cheating is simply inhuman. Victor is diligent and devoted. He truly loves his wife. How could such a good man still get cheated on? Just the other day, Victor prepared a Chichi festival gift for Rebecca that Rebecca really has no heart. Reading these comments, I couldn't tell whether I should feel sad or happy. I was naturally happy that they spoke up for me. Yet every word they uttered stabbed straight through my heart and lungs, as if they wanted the whole world to know I'd been a pathetic simp. Still, the final outcome was good. Nathan and Rebecca, once the legendary couple everyone admired, instantly became the shameless adulterers everyone condemned. Someone even went out of their way to create a timeline documenting evidence of their affair. I didn't have the energy for such things, nor did I want to get involved. Nathan was the first to approach me, hoping I could help clarify that Rebecca and I had already divorced long ago. The audacity of that man, stealing my wife as the other man, then expecting me to willingly play the role of the ex-husband. What a beautiful thought. I'd love to get divorced if only you could make Rebecca agree to it quickly. Pestering me is useless. It's not you who is divorcing me anyway. Lying on the hospital bed, I've never felt more at peace in my life. Nathan's expression was off. He must have already had a falling out with Rebecca. He wanted to say more, even considering coercing or threatening me. Unfortunately, just as he was about to act, my colleagues who came to see me stopped him. These people have been holding back their anger for a long time. Over the years, everyone had witnessed exactly how I treated Rebecca. Now, I not only have stomach cancer, but I've also been cheated on. They were on my side, and naturally couldn't swallow this insult. There were quite a few of them, and the originally somewhat spacious hospital room now felt rather crowded. A few hot-blooded young men couldn't hold back, and threw a few punches at Nathan just to teach him a lesson. Nathan also had no choice but to leave in disgrace. The news of my resignation ultimately couldn't be kept from them. That sentimental young girl was already crying so hard she could barely catch her breath. Here I was, a sick man, having to constantly comfort them. Though it might sound wrong, I was enjoying myself. They made me feel at home. Things escalated quickly online, and many media outlets or independent content creators soon tracked down the hospital where I was staying. They rushed in eagerly, and though I wanted to drive them away, I found myself powerless to do so. Mr. Victor, when did you first discover Ms. Rebecca's infidelity? Mr. Victor, what are your thoughts on Nathan? Mr. Victor, how do you plan to punish the two of them afterward? The barrage of questions left me dizzy and disoriented, adding insult to injury for someone already utterly exhausted. They truly would stop at nothing for their so-called headline news, shamelessly harassing a terminally ill cancer patient. At this moment, a frail female voice came from behind the crowd. It was Rebecca. After they noticed the cameras instantly swiveled in her direction, forcing Rebecca into a corner. I watched as her face turned deathly pale, so weak she nearly fainted. Blinded by the flashing camera lights, she could only helplessly lean against the wall for support. Fortunately, the caregiver arrived in time, and the security personnel she brought escorted these people away. I never imagined Rebecca could become so heartless. Not towards me, of course, but towards the child in her womb. When she appeared before me again, her belly was flat, her face haggard. Honey, I got rid of that child. Let us not get divorced, okay? A fragile smile hung on her pale face, exuding a broken kind of beauty. But I didn't understand. Wasn't this the child she had longed for over 7 years? Why would she get rid of it? Rebecca, it's no use. Let us get divorced. Honey, I really didn't mean to deceive you. I was afraid you'd misunderstand. That day, when Nathan returned to the country, I was genuinely happy and had a bit too much to drink that when it happened between us. I was blinded by the youthful infatuation of my first love. It wasn't until the day I learned about your illness that I couldn't stop imagining the pain of losing you. It hurt too much. I'd already fallen in love with you long ago, but I just didn't realize it. Rebecca delivered an impassioned speech blaming everything on drunken recklessness and unconscious love. If the first time was an accident, what about the entire month that followed? If she hadn't discovered I was terminally ill, would she never have known how to love me? How hypocritical. I said all these words to Rebecca, leaving her speechless, stammering to object, but finding no words to speak. Honey, I came home yesterday and saw the Chishi Festival gift you prepared for me on a nightstand. You clearly still love me. So she had seen that gift. Maybe I still loved you back then, but not anymore. Rebecca's eyes gradually dimmed, but no matter what I said, she stubbornly refused to divorce me. Rebecca, I don't want to see you. The love of my heart had long been worn away by her repeated deceptions and betrayals, leaving not a trace behind. She shook her head, desperately wanting to throw herself into my arms, as she had done so many times before. But I coldly avoided her embrace without hesitation. I wanted to drive her away, but she insisted on staying to take care of me. This truly irritated me. She had never cared for anyone before, and she was still weak from just having lost the baby. What exactly is she pretending it here? Outside the window, the leaves had already begun to yellow, scattered by the autumn wind, drifting aimlessly. Just like me, a life spent in lonely desolation, with my physical condition now in complete shambles. This was no longer the height of summer, not the summer that lived in my heart. The caregiver harbored great hostility toward Rebecca, often deliberately making things difficult for her. But Rebecca endured it all, which to my surprise was rather unexpected. I felt a bit puzzled. She had been with me for 3 days, yet Nathan hadn't come looking for her. Truly, a woman's heart is as deep and unfathomable as the ocean. On the 5th day, Nathan finally appeared, hobbling into my hospital room in his patient gown. I was somewhat surprised to see him. He was furious at the sight of Rebecca diligently tending to me by my side. He grabbed Rebecca by the collar, ready to throw punches right there in the hospital room, but was stopped by the orderly. Rebecca, you have no heart. You took advantage of me being drunk, tied me up, And if it weren't for the paparazzi sneaking in and finding me this morning, I would have starved to death at home. The amount of information was overwhelming. I studied Rebecca's expression and detected a trace of hatred in it. Why didn't you just starve to death? My husband is fighting his illness here, and you don't deserve to have it easy either. Nathan's eyes were filled with disbelief, his eyelids reddening as he punched the hospital wall, venting his fury. What did you say? I went abroad for 7 years for you, endured countless humiliations overseas, and finally returned after completing my studies, and this is how you treat me. Rebecca, upon hearing these words, completely lost control of her emotions. She shoved Nathan violently, her entire demeanor bordering on hysteria. You did that for yourself. I begged you back, then pleaded with you to take me away, but you saw me as nothing but a burden. Now 7 years have passed. I'm already married in love with my husband. Why must you come back to disturb my life? I couldn't bear to listen anymore. These two kept shifting blame onto each other, never acknowledging their own mistakes. Perhaps the love was truly gone. My heart no longer stirred with greater turmoil. It's just that I couldn't stay here any longer. The days of chemotherapy were truly agonizing, and with their constant disturbances, it felt like they wouldn't even let me die in peace. When Nathan learned that Rebecca had already aborted the child, he instantly became despondent and collapsed onto the floor. That might have been his last hope, now shattered just like that. Rebecca leaned on the table with one hand while clutching her lower abdomen with the other, suddenly bursting into laughter. Tears of laughter streamed down, eyes brimming with the thrill of vengeance. Both of them were lunatics. The commotion grew too loud, drawing a scolding from the nurse who came to investigate, thus ending the farce. Still, it was time for me to leave. I asked the caregiver to handle my discharge procedures for me, and while Rebecca was out buying food, I quickly left the hospital. The caregiver said I shouldn't have done that. But it doesn't matter anymore. I don't want to continue treatment for the time I've left. I'd rather travel and see the magnificent landscapes of our country. The caregiver was a recent college graduate. I asked if he wanted to come along, and he agreed without hesitation. And so the two of us embarked on our journey. Watching the flag-raising ceremony at Tiananmen Square during the National Day holiday filled me with excitement. Originally, I had planned to hike fragrant hills to see the autumn foliage, but my body couldn't handle it, so I just sat briefly at the foot of the mountain before leaving. Instead, I went to the seaside, and as I gazed at the azure ocean, my heart gradually opened up. Then I went to Yunnan to experience the magnificence of Songshan Mountain and Irai Lake. In the ancient town of Lijiang, the caregiver and I rented a homestay. My physical condition was deteriorating day by day, forcing me to stop and rest. That evening, I received a call from a colleague. When I answered, I realized the person on the other end of the line was Rebecca. Honey, we want to get divorced, right? I didn't respond because none of this mattered to me anymore, and I had no intention of continuing the entanglement. After all, I'll be dead soon anyway. Honey, I'll give you an explanation. With those words, she hung up the phone. It was until the next day when the caregiver rushed over in a panic, showing me the news on her phone, that I finally understood what this so-called explanation really was. It was Nathan who died 10. News report: renowned pianist Nathan died in his own villa, suspected to be caused by a gas leak explosion. When the body was discovered, it had been burned beyond recognition, with the face completely disfigured. One can imagine the immense suffering this person endured before death. Next, another piece of news trended online: Rebecca's suicide by jumping off the hospital rooftop. Surprisingly, my heart remained eerily calm, with only a hint of astonishment. I never expected them to die before me. This could only be considered their own doing. Colleagues from the company kept calling, especially the one who had lent his phone that day. He felt somewhat guilty, thinking he shouldn't have lent his phone to Rebecca. I reassured him it wasn't his fault. They reaped what they sowed. Matthew, however, was indignant and kept saying, serve them, right? Which actually made me chuckle despite myself. The doctor said I must undergo treatment as soon as possible to possibly extend my life. Otherwise, I may only have a few months left. Eternal, I don't want to endure the taste of farewell anymore. 7 years ago, in midsummer, my mother passed away, also from stomach cancer. Perhaps I should have foreseen my own ending long ago. I gave a portion of my savings to the caregiver, considering it as payment for accompanying me through the final stretch of my life's journey. Over the years, I've accumulated quite a substantial sum in savings. The remainder, along with other real estate assets, was all donated to charity. I hope they can use this money to help others like me, those suffering from illness. Finally, on a quiet night, I saw my mother's figure. She said I had suffered. Suddenly, I remembered that I should leave a large sum of money for the homestay owner. I might die here, bringing some bad luck to his house. After everything was settled, I lay quietly in bed, gazing at the bright moon in the sky. Close his eyes forever. The end.